the Harris-Walz ticket has now taken up the mantra that we're not going back. And I want to talk about that during the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour as well. This idea that we're not going to go back to what exactly? They're a little nebulous, and it's a little bit unclear as to what they mean when they say we're not going back. Do you mean not going back to affordable housing and affordable car loans because interest rates are lower? Or do you mean not going back to when inflation was relatively and reliably low? Do you mean not going back to where working class families saw wages rising at a steady pace? Do you mean not going back to the idea that African American unemployment was its lowest in history, that Hispanic American unemployment was its lowest in history? Do you mean not going back to that? Is that what you mean? I think Americans want to go back to a nation where gasoline was around $2 or thereabouts a gallon, where America was a net energy exporter as opposed to having a dependence on individuals that run countries like Venezuela and Russia and Iran. I think America wants to go back to a point where our border had some semblance of control to it. There's a great editorial piece in the New York Post about this idea of not going back. Going back versus not going back. Do we want to go back to a time when these millions of economic migrants weren't allowed just free reign into the interior of the United States of America by simply saying the word asylum? Maybe we as Americans want to go back to that time. Perhaps we want to go back to a time where we're not catching terrorists, actual known terrorists in the hundreds that have come into the United States of America because Border Patrol was too overwhelmed to catch the endless flow of getaways running into the United States of America. Maybe we want to go back to a time where we didn't have foreign wars popping up all over the globe because of an inability of America to lead and prevent said same from happening before our very eyes. I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia. I'm talking about Israel and Hamas, of course. Do we want to return to a foreign policy that doesn't hand over billions and billions and billions of dollars to Iran just to see Iran turn it over to Hezbollah and Hamas and kill and slaughter innocent people? Do we want to go back to a time where Moscow is told that if you take any of our hostages, we're going to respond with the sword and not with diplomacy? I could go on and on. I mean, do we want to return to a time where we don't have to worry about our children or our grandchildren walking into a bathroom of our choosing and encountering an individual of a different gender or sex, a grown man in a girl's bathroom? I feel like we want to go back to a time where we clearly understand that if you have female sports, the introduction of men in those female sports are going to destroy female sports as a function of the male participating in the sport.
I did what I came to do.
But Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they say, we're not going back.
I think it's very important for us at every moment in time to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present.